Well, hey, happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here with me. We've got a great episode today on our live stream, all about common mistakes that we're seeing and how it could be preventing you from getting an interview. And we're going to talk about ways to avoid them. But just kind of check my tech here. Looks like we are now streaming live book. Give everyone a minute to join. If you are joining me, let me know who is here. Say something in the comments. Leave me where you're from, a shout out. Would love to hear from you. I do have some housekeeping though. If you're joining from Facebook, make sure that you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and give Facebook and StreamYard permission to speak to each other. Otherwise, if you leave me a comment, it's just going to say Facebook user and I will not know who it is. So also want to say too, for those of you that may be catching this on the replay, to use hashtag replay and make sure if you have a question that you tag me so that I will be able to see that and respond to your question as well. So all right. Well, if you are new to me and I am new to you, let's have some introductions here. My name is Beverly Smith, and I am the founder of Career Success Strategies. I am also the former owner of a staffing and recruiting firm. So I know firsthand what hiring managers are looking for, and I'm using that knowledge to help mid and senior level professionals build their resumes, help them with their job search so that they can land the career of their dreams. So last week we talked all about working with recruiters, and I'm talking about those outside recruiters, not recruiters that work for a particular employer, but those that are recruiting firms. And we talked about how to make the most of that partnership. So much good info. And of course, as I mentioned, that's my background. So I really want to make sure I get asked about that a lot. And yes, I do think it's a great idea. Please go back and check out that replay. You can find my YouTube channel and it's at Beverly Smith Resumes, and you can find it there. And along with a lot of all our other past episodes. But yeah, go make sure that you watch that. So today, though, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about resumes, the common mistakes that could be keeping you from landing the job interview of your dreams. And so, whether you are just starting out and you're just thinking about looking for a new job and getting your resume together, or if you've been looking for a while and maybe you're not landing those interviews, this episode is for you. So, get your pen, get your paper, or catch us on the replay, take notes. But I've got 5 different mistakes that I feel like are pretty common that I am seeing, and I want to share with you how you can avoid those and things that you can do that is going to definitely help you stand out as a job seeker because the field gets pretty crowded and it gets pretty noisy, and I want to make sure that you stand out. So we're going to jump right in. And again, leave me a comment or question if you have any that come up, and I will be checking those periodically. So, first mistake that I see is resumes that are too long, multiple pages. In most cases, y'all, a resume should be limited to 2 pages. If you have any type of length in your career, 1 page if you are a recent graduate. I know most of this audience is mid and senior level professionals, so 2 pages is really good. There could be reasons why it could be longer, and generally those are going to be like in the medical profession where they're actually doing CVs and that kind of thing. But just as a general rule, you really want to try to keep it to 2 pages. And I know that some of you are going, oh my goodness, I have a 20 plus year career. how on earth do you expect me to keep this to 2 pages? Well, as we highlight some of the other mistakes and how to avoid them, this is going to be clearer, but I am going to tell you a few things right off the bat. First of all, one way to avoid a long, lengthy resume is just to keep it to the last 10 to 12 years of work history on your resume. And so we don't want to list every job that we've ever had. And honestly, we will really want to try to keep things relevant to the position that we're applying. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. You can go back as much as 15 years. And y'all, I mean, there are going to be some cases where you are going to want to put all of your work history. That's probably going to be unique, but keeping it to 10 to 12 years, in most cases, the roles that you're applying for, it's your recent work experience that's going to be the most relevant and best demonstrate your qualifications for the positions that you're applying for. So when you work with a professional writer like those that are on my team, we're really also skilled at formatting and knowing the ins and outs of Microsoft Word. So we also know how to get more words on a page without compromising the value of white space, which is really important in your resume. It makes it easier to read, and we just don't want it to look overcrowded. So that is a shameless plug, but one reason you might want to work with a resume writer, because they do know not just expanding margins, but other tips and tricks to make the resume, well, keep it readable, but still be able to get more words on a page and make it formatted in a way that makes sense. So moving on, and let me just stop real quick and see. Okay, let's see. Oh, we've got some. Hi, Jennifer, joining us from New Jersey, and Jodo. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Excellent. Thank you. Excellent live, Tom. How much should my resume match my LinkedIn profile for content? What about removing older jobs from either? Great question. So you don't want to copy and paste your resume into LinkedIn. LinkedIn can be more a great place to use first person. Definitely, again, I would keep it relevant to the jobs that you're applying for. And so to answer your question, don't really want to go back and hit every single job that you've had from the beginning of your work career on, especially those really early positions, unless you can show some sort of relevance to the positions you're applying for. But I think, again, it's just important. LinkedIn tells us too that having at least 2 positions that are completely filled out is going to help with your visibility on the profile as well. So I hope that answers your question. And I love the topic of LinkedIn. It's something that I can talk a lot about, and I do have a lot of videos on my YouTube page if you want to check that out. So how many bullet points do you advise for job listed? Thank you, Jennifer. That's a good question. I want to say probably it's going to depend on the position, and we're actually going to dive a little bit into that. So I'm going to save that question, and hopefully we'll answer that here as we move forward. So our second mistake is, and this is probably going to lead a little bit into that, is having a resume that reads like a job description. So each position that you have listed should not have 10 bullet points. Especially too, and Jennifer, I hope this answers your question, when you have bullet points that are repeated in each experience. Maybe you've worked 2 very similar roles at different companies and you're just repeating that, and it just kind of looks, you have some resumes too that look like you've just copied and pasted in either a job posting or your current employer's job description. So why is this bad? Well, not only is it boring, but it tells the reader absolutely nothing about your abilities. Plus, these are the kinds of mistakes that is going to contribute to that resume that's 4 pages long. And I can promise you, no one wants to read a resume that's long and has 10 bullet points, and probably not even you. You probably don't want to read your resume if it's that long. So basically, the mistake I'm seeing is this resume that I jokingly, lovingly like to refer to as the career obituary. It just has a list of duties and responsibilities. And instead, the purpose of your resume, it really needs to be a career marketing um, document. And your resume is its purpose is to market you to prospective employers. So you need to talk about your achievements and your accomplishments. That's what your bullet points need to be about, which leads me to our third mistake. And that is not having any context um, and results on your achievements. So a lot of times I'll have people that'll list a bunch of achievements and accomplishments. Um, and they may say, grew the market share, increased profits, or reduced cost. It's a great start, but honestly, y'all, it still doesn't tell me anything about your abilities. So, yes, we really want to see those action verbs, those things that say like enhanced or expanded and fostered, or all those really good, juicy action verbs. But those words will be more effective if you provide context and the results that you got and how you got them. So, one thing I want to kind of throw in here is I get a lot of pushback from people who go, "Ooh, I feel a little egotistical when I brag about my accomplishments and talk about those things that I achieved." So remember, your resume's purpose is to showcase your strengths and your achievements. It's to market you to that next employer. So, kind of backing up, what do I mean when I say I want you to give me context? What I want to know here is, what did you step into? What were you asked to do? So, maybe you were asked to take over the worst performing territory in your district, and under your leadership, it consistently ranked in the top 3 each quarter. Well, that's a very important detail. That gives me a lot of context um, in your abilities. I see that you took over something that was underperforming and you were able to turn that thing around. And if you just list a bunch of responsibilities or, I was third in my district for 6 straight quarters, third out of 57, great, but that doesn't give me context. How do I know that you didn't step into it when it was number 1? Or, maybe you bumped it up from 5 to 6. So I want to know context. But additionally, you want to tell the reader how you did it. So, did you create a program that re-engaged past customers? Did you implement client-specific training that added value to your product or your service? Did you streamline the ordering process that makes it easier for the client to choose your product over your competition? Did you train your team on cross-selling techniques? I mean, these are just all really good things that you could include. And this, Jennifer, to answer your question, this is where your bullet points come in. These are the things that you're coming in, you're listing out, this is the context, and then these are maybe the 3 highlights of what I did and how I turned that thing around. So that's where we want to know. And I hope that answered your question. Let me just kind of jump back over here and see. Um, okay, I don't know. I don't see any more, but if you have any additional questions, or if that did, give me a thumbs up. I would love to know. Um, so, um, the other thing I want to say is, in this particular area, make sure you include some metrics as well. So, how much did you increase? How many new customers did you bring on? Those kinds of things. So, include the results, where you took it, where it started at and where you took it from. And then again, give me that juicy middle, that how you did it. So, shameless plug, I will say that when you work with a professional writer, like those on my team, we're really able to help you pull that information out, because sometimes when you're really close to the situation, things that other people see as an accomplishment, you may not really. So knowing, how to ask you those right questions, and then be able to bring all that together and tell your story in a very clear and concise manner. That's one of the things that we really specialize in doing. So our fourth mistake is using those fluffy filler words. And y'all, this is one that first of all, it's funny. You get a group of resume writers in the room and you ask them for fluffy filler words, and it's hilarious because we all come up with this list. Um, I did a poll recently on a group of writers that I'm in, and it was just funny. But some of the ones that, when I say fluffy filler words, I'm talking about are like that, team player, hard worker, ambition, seasoned, or detail oriented. Y'all, the real estate on your resume is too precious to use words that are vague and meaningless. And seriously, those words like team player or ambitious or seasoned, they actually tell me nothing about your abilities. So instead, I want you to show the reader, again, going back to our third mistake, going back to that, show the reader what you stepped into and the actions you took. Replace those ambiguous words with phrases and quantifiable accomplishments and results like we just discussed. So, moving on to our fifth and final mistake, and this is sending out that generic resume. These resumes, y'all, are vague and they confuse the reader. I can tell you, when I worked as a recruiter, I saw a lot of really great candidates while I was a recruiter. But when you look at their resume, you would just go, I have no idea what to do with you because you don't really tell me anything. Your resume is so generic. And just to kind of give you maybe a further example, I recently worked with a client who had over 20 years of experience in the IT field. And during this recent years, he had assumed increasingly, he had assumed more leadership roles, and they were increasing over the few years he'd been in there. And his long-term goal was to position himself for a CIO opportunity. And while he knew he wasn't there yet, he knew he was ready to move up to the senior director level. However, his current resume was very tech driven, had all the technical details, and there was very little said about his leadership abilities. And had he submitted that resume for that senior director position, he really would not have probably gotten a second look at all. And so it's really important that what we did is we pulled out and we really highlighted his leadership abilities in his more recent roles, while also we don't completely throw out his past, but we just show his career progression and make it more relevant. And you really want to make sure that when you are sending out your resume, that it's actually very targeted for the positions that you're applying for. Here's the sad truth, guys. Recruiters spend 6 to 10 seconds looking at your resume before they make a decision. And that decision is either going to be one, they're going to keep reading, or two, they are going to move on to the next candidate. And some things that you can avoid is, or that you should have, is to have an objective headline that says what position that you're applying for. And then having a summary that showcases the highlights of your career that are relevant to that next role. And it used to be that we used an objective statement that said something like, to find a company where I can grow and best use my skills and, grow my career. And y'all, those are really outdated. They're very, very 90s. We don't see those anymore. For one thing, they're kind of all about you and what you're looking for. And we really want to use the WIFM. What's in it for me? We want to bring out what is your unique value that you bring to the employer. So when the employer is looking at it, they're looking and reading your resume and seeing how you fit into their organization and what problems you can solve for them. And the other thing is, when your resume is too generic, it's probably not going to have relevant keywords. And those are the things that those recruiters are looking for. They're looking for those keywords, and they want to see that right in the top. So it's good to have that in the summary. Some people will have a skills section or a core competencies section that will have those relevant keywords. And it's those things that make them say, okay, after 6 to 10 seconds, I'm going to keep reading this resume and reading it all the way through. So we have covered a lot of information in the last few minutes. So we're curious, what is your biggest takeaway? Would love to know. And let me see if we have any more questions. Let's see. Jennifer says, should a resume include an objective on top or summary? I think we kind of just answered that. Not sure if this is still relevant. So yes. And I think we covered that, Jennifer. So if you have any more questions, let me know. And Tom says, are resumes being screened and rejected by tools before recruit? Yes. He says before recruiters' eyes see them, or their ways a person is seeing this. So yes, in some cases, yes, definitely. When you apply online, it goes into an applicant tracking system or their database. Having those relevant keywords are going to be really important. The other thing is your formatting, just making sure that you don't have formatting or a bunch of weird fonts. It's going to throw a hiccup into that. But the keywords that you use, you want to make sure that it's relevant to the position, because here's the deal. So, as a recruiter, I have a database I pull up, and when I'm working on a particular position, I might type in, a few keywords so that it pulls up everybody in my database that matches those keywords. And if you don't have those, then you want to make sure that you're including those and putting those in. So there's going to be times too when you're going to want to tweak that resume a little bit. And again, this is something I work with my clients on and teach them how to take the resume we created and tweak it just enough for each position so that you get the right keyword. So in other words, like let's use our salesperson example. Some places may call it a salesperson. Some people may call it business development. And having the right word, you want to make sure that it populates. So if they're asking for a VP of business development, that's what you want that title, that headline to be. And let me see. I think Jennifer says, seems like resumes should tailor each position when it comes to the summary and objective. Absolutely. Yes, you want to tailor that resume, which is kind of what I was saying earlier about being more targeted and again for each position. And so the other thing too is you can kind of start with, to go back to our salesperson example, you can target it towards sales type roles, but then again, with each position, if you need to tweak those keywords just a little bit, you can. So I hope that answers your question. Again, we've covered a lot of information, and I'm so thankful for you all joining me. You've asked some great questions here. And if you found this to be helpful, make sure, and you know someone that you think it could be helpful, make sure you share this video with them or tag a friend. And again, I do specialize in working with mid and senior level professionals. And if you are interested in scheduling a complimentary consultation with me, let me drop my link here in the chat. I forgot to have that ready, but here we go. I think I can do that real quick. And there it goes. So yes, I do the complimentary consultation, and we can talk more about your specific needs, what that might look like to work together, how my team and I work. And also, I always make sure that people understand more about the job search process and what they're up against, because there's a lot of things. If you're not looking for a job on a daily basis, you may or may not know. So those are just some things. But next week, I will be back with another great topic, and I hope that you will make sure that you join me. I'm here every Wednesday at 12:30, and I look forward to seeing you on my next live stream. Thank you.